Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
What's up, guys? Tommy Carrigan from Tommy's Podcast, part of Untamed Nation. I am filling in for Joe today on Friday, October 3rd, 2025 at 12:44 p.m. Eastern Time with my buddy Austin. And as always, we're just going to make it up as we go. Austin, you're not too white.
No?
No, you're not. No, dude. No, man. I'm white. The only time I don't look very white is when like Irish, like rosacea blurs. And the camera doesn't know what to do, so it makes me look a little tanner, but it's really just blotchy red skin. So it's whatever, dude.
I look like a ghost right now. I'm just being illuminated by my monitors here. I was like, oh, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
I turn the bright white screen off, it goes away.
That'll do it. But yeah, so the thing I talked about with EM Burlingame this morning, which you guys will see after this, is everybody knows about the big Pentagon meeting where they called in all the generals. And the only reason it was significant is I guess there'd only been so many of those in U.S. history where you bring them all in. And then I didn't watch it, but I read about it. I guess it was just kind of, it almost seemed like a pep rally, except like, hey, we're not going to do the woke stuff anymore. And, Trump was like, blah, blah, blah. And everyone covering it said like this was a total waste of time and resources. Which makes me think that they did talk about something and that was just kind of a BS cover. And so the other day, the Department of Defense released something on September 29th, 2025. That I know nothing about. I know nothing about the military. I have a biology degree, but you can see it on the screen. But it's essentially the legal framework for why the U.S. military can operate on U.S. soil. And it's important because Title 10 is, I believe, the Department of Defense. That's everything from Green Berets to the Army to the Navy, all over the world, blah, blah, blah. Title 50 is something that started, I believe, under the Eisenhower administration for the CIA's special forces. It's called CIA Ground Branch. And that's Black Ops. If you ever play the Black Ops video games, they'll literally mention CIA Ground Branch. And I know some of the Ground Branch guys, and I messaged them this, and I said, is this significant? Because I don't know anything. I can easily be led on about this stuff. And they said it's very significant because it broadens the scope of Title 50 as it pertains to U.S. soil, which is it's a wild statement for them to. It's one thing if I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, the military. So I sent it along to some special forces guys, and they all said, one guy said not particularly. All the other ones said, yes, it is significant. So there's no like neutral ground of like, it's probably not. There's one guy saying, it's whatever. I guess that is a neutral ground. And everyone else saying like, without a doubt, this is very significant. So that alone is in the same way early on in the podcast when I did those COVID episodes. It was meaningful because you'd have on guys like Dr. Peter McCullough or Dr. Robert Malone or Dr. Stephen Hatfield and on and on and on. Dr. Aditi Bhargava. These are all people who are just, world renowned in their position and exceedingly accomplished. And when they would start to say, I've never seen this many adverse events from something, or they say, I've never seen this sort of a public flogging about, vaccines. I've never seen informed consent be tossed out of the window so uniformly. That's when I started doing a lot of those episodes. Because if it's me and somebody else, talking about the vax, we don't know what we're talking about. So my point is with this, to me, it is at the very least significant because guys who have colored careers in these units, forces, whatever, I'll say this is significant. And then when you pair that with, well, is this just bluster? It's like, well, what's another thing that just happened? They brought all the generals back to talk to him at the Pentagon. So if you look at that, the physical movement of generals from all over the world back to the Pentagon, and the public face of it says it looked kind of like a stupid pep rally. It was like a Trump tweet as a speech, like, no more fats, no more trannies. Like, I think one news coverage said it could have been an email, and it probably could have if you take it at face value. But if you take that, you have them all back there at the Pentagon. This has only happened so many times in U.S. history. Paired with a release of a document. And then what is that document? It's something that I, through my contacts, just simply ask, is this significant? Not pro or against, not for Trump, for Biden, whatever. Just said, is this significant? And almost all of them except one said this is significant. So if you pair all those together, logic would dictate that we're going to probably see some unprecedented things in the U.S. And I know that's a very bland and vague statement, and I normally don't like making those because having done the podcast for so long, I'd see just how none of those ever come true. But it is interesting. And you kind of start to wonder, well, what other things, when Trump brought in the National Guard to D.C. because one dude got jumped, like, does that rationally make sense? No, it seems like that was for something else. And if he's moving the National Guard to multiple cities, and they have this memo, and they bring these generals back, and you look at how they tried to kill him last summer, and you look at Crossfire Hurricane, and you have DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, and DNI, the head of all of the intelligence agencies, come out and goes, I'll leave it up to DOJ, but in short, there's been treasonous activity from President Obama. These are a lot of puzzle pieces. Any one of them would be kind of interesting. There's a handful of them. Now, I don't know what this means, and this is kind of what I wanted to bounce around with you, because you and I have no experience in this, so we can kind of look at it from, unbiased eyes. In that, I look at this, I'm more conservative leanings, I voted for Trump, and my first instinct is like, good, screw these people. If they stole an election, if they did all this, if they opened the border, if they're just dumping trillions away to Ukraine, good. Now, the critical part of me says this stuff is never good. It's when state gains power, it never releases it. It's somebody I forget who on the show once, some military guy goes, it's like tightening a bolt with a wrench. Every time you tighten it, it's just tighter. Now, sometimes you stop. Sometimes nothing new happens with government power for a couple of years or a decade. But it only ever goes one direction once it starts. 2001, the Patriot Act. 2008, the scope of the government bailing out Wall Street. 2020, COVID, and working with all the media companies to censor things. Whenever this stuff happens, it tends to not be good. And they know that in order to get these things passed, you need to take turns passing it with favor from the left or passing it with favor from the right. Even if you do only one big thing per administration. That is how you get this stuff to slowly happen to where we're all for it, or one half of us is for it. And then a new president comes in power, and you go, well, I don't like this. So whoever's after President Donald Trump, let's say a Democrat who I don't vote for, they will now have the legal precedent to deploy the U.S. military on domestic soil to take out threats within. Well, what is a threat within? Right now, I can go, yeah, it's all the drug cartels and the illegal immigrants and the Chinese soldiers coming through the southern border. What happens in 8 years, just like hate speech changes from, screaming the N-word or inciting violence to hate speeches, using the wrong pronoun, critically, I would have to assume that if this happens, and if I'm here cheering it on, in 5 years and 10 years, who's to say that I am not deemed a domestic threat? Because of whatever. I stand for free speech. I like the United States and the Second Amendment. And Austin's a threat. Well, Austin used to be a producer for him. And that's how a lot of these things are. But when you designate things as terrorist organizations, what that really means is it's not just the person doing it, it's everyone around aiding and abetting. It's cellular terrorism. The nature of cellular terrorism, where you find them and then everyone that's enabling them. So, is Antifa, BLM, are these things terrorist networks? Is the stealing of an election? Is the dissolution of a southern border? Are these terrorist networks? Okay. What could be a terrorist network in 10 years? Is it my podcast? Because it's not seen as conducive to whatever the United States is doing at the time. So, which is it? And to me, it's a very difficult question, because normally my answer would always be the answer is no, because it will eventually be used against me. So it's not that I love my enemy, but rather I don't want my enemy to have the thing that I'm about to do on them. So it's a way of self-preservation. It's almost a mutual assured destruction, but with federal power. On the other side, this isn't a normal left-right of the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s. There's a stolen election. There's outright governors just declaring sanctuary cities. There's releasing a bioweapon. There are, kids having their genitals mutilated. They tried to blow Trump's head off last summer. You shouldn't be able to get within 10 miles of a presidential candidate. Charlie Kirk was just shot on live TV. Man, at what point do you have to do something this extreme? I don't know. Normally, my answer would always be no, because it will eventually be used against me. So it's not that I don't want Trump to use the military against these people. It's that I don't want President AOC to be using the Green Berets against me in Austin. So I look at it that way. However, as I just said, we do seem to be in extreme times. And most importantly, I don't have a say in any of this. Pentagon's going to do whatever they're going to do anyway. I don't care about me and you. But that's just kind of where I'm playing around with it. Am I okay with this being used against me? And the answer is no. I also don't think we're at a point right now that feels like it. Maybe the 1960s, the whole peace love movement versus, the Vietnam War, shooting at Kent State, and maybe like the Civil War. But we don't seem to be in a usual time right now. So I don't know. The Patriot Act, I would argue, did almost nothing good. X Keyscore, Echelon, Stellar Winds, all these NSA programs that never went away after 9/11. 9/11 happened. We rolled out the Patriot Act. It's 24 years later, and nobody even has jokingly talked about rolling back domestic surveillance. Okay. So then you have to ask, was 9/11 perpetrated by the government or not? Let's just pretend for this argument that it was 100% real. It really was terrorist. Let's just say that's what this is. If that really is what it was, then you would probably say, yeah, no, we need to pass the Patriot Act. We got to be able to hoover up every text message and make sure this is prevented. Part of me would say you want one of these events to happen so you can roll in the federal control. At the same time, sometimes these events do just... I'm a conspiracy guy. Not everything's a conspiracy. Sometimes it does just happen. Sometimes shit just happens. So I don't know. I mean, which way do you go? Do you not take care of whatever's going on? I mean, if election was stolen in 2020, if COVID was intentionally released, if all these, we know through the Twitter files, we know that the FBI and the DHS had backdoor portals, not like a text, not like a hotline, but their own backdoor portals into Instagram and Snapchat. If all that really did happen, you might need to use the military to burn that system out. Like, it's a system of like roots that you can't just pull on it. Like, you need acid and to rip it out. You need a backhoe. I don't see how this won't eventually be used against me. And I don't know. So I'm not joking when I say I think it's interesting for you and I to talk about it, because we don't have any experience with this, and we can kind of look at it with new eyes. So your thoughts on any of that, Austin? Just the general vibe of are we in extraordinary times and there needs to be extraordinary measures, or is this being used to roll out further federal control that will eventually be used against you and I?
I think it's for further federal control. My take is on it. Whoever is collecting that data, be it the Chinese, they will most likely turn around and sell it to the highest bidder. And who knows? That could be outside of our country. That could be the UN. That could be some other governing body that gets put into place, and they come after us.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have that fear because I don't put anything extreme out. I don't even use social media.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. Well, that's been the mass surveillance has been happening since 2001.
You're just talking about the involvement,
the general involvement. That whole here's a point. When I say that doesn't matter, it's because it was passed and it's now never going to be unpassed. So that's kind of like an example of this. Is like, doesn't matter if you put anything extreme online. They can just make stuff up. They can put that on your phone. So we're seeing this precedent to, let's say 9/11 really happened as we were told. Maybe you really do need to pass the Patriot Act after it to make sure it doesn't happen again. Even if it was the best of intentions, it still resulted in domestic dragnet surveillance of everyone. And we're dealing with that. Whatever is happening now, 9/11 was 24 years ago. What I'm talking about might not even happen next year. What's 24 years from now? 2049. It might be something that far down the road. But it might be, the legal precedent during the summer of 2026 when then President Donald Trump used X, Y, and Z, because these governors weren't, cooperating with federal forces. Trump sent in the Marines. Like, that will now be on the table for any president to use. And I just don't see how that is not going to be wildly abused. I don't. I can't see how it's good.
Have you looked into it much? Is there any loophole that they created?
What do you mean?
No, something that does provide protections. If they do start coming after people that are non-violent offenders. I guess it depends on what they see as violent. You're violent because you're white, Tommy.
Well, that's the other thing is that the definition of violence can change. You don't even need you can just change the definition of violence. I doubt there are any loopholes. Again, I don't know any of this stuff. I doubt there are loopholes. And just in a microcosm, let's not even talk big picture Patriot Act. When you saw the amount of people freak out over Jimmy Kimmel having his show shut down temporarily, I had a lot of people message. Now, I didn't realize the FCC was involved. I legitimately thought it was just the private company telling them to hit the road. And so my immediate response was, I have no sympathy because I was banned by YouTube and iTunes. And when I would complain about it, people would say, that's not the First Amendment, that's a private company. And they're factually correct, by the way. And I said that in 2021, as I was getting kicked off YouTube. I said, they are a private company. But the tables have turned. And people are losing their job after cheering for the death of Charlie Kirk, or cheering or complaining about Jimmy Kimmel. And there's no awareness of, we just did this for 4 years and the precedent was set. The precedent was set that we're going to silence everyone. And even if they are private corporations, what's going to happen is somebody in the federal government is, through a back channel, going to talk to these private corporations and say, we'd really like if you got rid of that person. I mean, maybe we, whatever. Maybe we don't tax you next year, or maybe we help you build a new data center, or that's how all this stuff happens. The precedent was set for 4 years. And how was it set? It was set for something that, if you didn't know any better, you'd say was a good precedent. You'd say it was COVID. And there were people telling people not to get the life-saving vaccine. And people are going, I'm not for censorship, but this is an extreme scenario. It's a bioweapon virus, and a lot of people are dying. And that seemed at the time to actually be like a moral argument. We now look back on it and go, no, it wasn't. It was just used as a tool to bludgeon your political enemies. Okay, well, the new thing being rolled out in the extreme will be, well, we have to do it because there are domestic terror networks. And you look at something like Charlie Kirk and you go, yeah, no, I'm not for censorship and the use of the military, but I feel like this is an extreme situation. Like, the people that roll these things out know that that's the extreme situation is the lubricant that allows this to be facilitated. And I mean, the same people that cheered on the censorship of Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes and whoever are now up in arms. Jimmy Kimmel was removed. This is an attack on our democracy. This is this is pure tyranny with no even hint of like, not one of them came out and goes, you know what we did was wrong during COVID and it's wrong now. Okay, now I get it. It wasn't any of that. There was just, this is never okay. And the people on the right, without any hint of irony of what they went through for the last 4 years, went private company, government told them to, get over it. We had to do it during COVID. This isn't helping either of us. And this is in the last 4 years you can see this thing happen, where one side goes, it's good, it's for the greater good, get it done. And then it's turned back on them. What is coming in the next 5 years? Am I sitting here going, yeah, we can't really cover that topic because I don't want the Green Berets to kick in my door. I don't know. I don't think I have a reasonable answer. Well, no, I guess I'd say what my reasonable answer is I would err on the side of no. Don't do it. I think that's where I'd have to come down. And a lot of people I know who have a lot of experience in special forces community, guys who have spent more time in special forces than I've been alive, they're all saying that we're in unprecedented times, that there is domestic enemies, stolen election. You saw what they did in 2020 with riots. You saw what they wanted to do to Trump. You saw what they did do to Kirk. You saw what they did with censorship. You have to root them out, and you have to root them out ruthlessly. I don't even fully disagree with them, and that's my own bias. If you put a gun to my head and said, "Do you think this will ever be used against you?" I would say it absolutely will be used against me in my lifetime, if not the end of this decade. I would have to err on the side of no, don't do it. And it's not like an easy answer. Because let's say this terrorist network is real. Antifa, the DNC, BLM, China, the Tren de Agua, Tren de la Agua, however you say it. If you don't take them out, and if they steal an election, who's to say they might not do this exact thing and roll out the irregular warfare and go, now we're going to do it? You have a bunch of people like me being like, but we had the chance to do it and we said no. And they'd be like, yeah, you're weak. And then they roll it out. Like, it might also just be that. Like, there's a handgun with one bullet in it. I'd rather have the handgun and know that I'm not going to use it on Austin than Austin have it and me hope to God he doesn't use it on me. And that's a dark scenario. But that's also probably much more realistic. So I don't know. Do you roll the dice and say, yeah, send out the Green Berets, bang on their doors, take out everyone involved with the 2020 election, remove everybody involved with, human trafficking over the southern border, remove everyone that was grifting money from the Ukraine aid, remove everyone that was covering up COVID vax deaths and myocarditis and fibrin clots and, the 1 in 400,000 year change in miscarriages we've seen. Maybe you have to do that. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's certainly not an easy decision to make. What do you think, Austin?
I was looking at other topics. I'm still listening. I'm still listening. I'm trying to find something else to fill the rest of this time with.
No, you're good. No, don't do that, man. Just let it ride. Don't worry about topics. They come to you. I think that, and it might be that there is like no good answer. It might be like, hey, you use this now and get rid of the enemies within, and then yeah, within the next 10 years it will be used on you. Or it's you don't use this now, and then the enemies within collapse the country in the next 2 years. The answer might be you either get 2 years or 10 years. And I'm like, no, but I want the one where this doesn't happen and we live happily ever after. That might not be on the table anymore. It might be, you want 2 years or 10 years? I don't know, man. It's,
I mean, you think they could reel it back or put a safeguard in place?
I would want it. I don't see any case in U.S. history where they ever rolled it back.
Kind of like taxes.
It's never been rolled. I mean, well, I guess they did get rid of the draft. I mean, I guess that's a glaring example. They got rid of the draft, and that's the ultimate state power, right? Against your will, you have to take up arms.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that is an example. And I mean, let's play devil's advocate. I'm back on YouTube now. Things have been getting rolled back. All right. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's not as black and white as I thought. Maybe these things can get rolled back.
I don't know. I think there's always going to be a give and take, but you're never going to get back what you originally had.
I agree.
It's kind of like with some of the, being in Colorado, we have pretty crazy gun bills that come across Polis's desk. And I mean, if he had his way, it would be nobody has a firearm. Nobody has semi-automatic weapon. They'll present it and then reel it back. Or we'll take this out. Are you happy now?
And that seems
I picture it's the same thing. Like we go to the extreme, we may reel it back somewhat, but we'll never have that full freedom again.
Which would then make me say, no, you have to reject all of it every time it arises. I think that has to be the answer. I also think that, again, like I said, I don't think you and I's discussion or opinion on it is rattling a whole lot of boots in the Pentagon.
No,
I don't know if there's some guys in some nuclear
us.
bunker somewhere going, hold on, Tommy and Austin are saying no good. Just imagine some 4-star general be like, my God in heaven. Like, oh yeah, these guys are gonna listen. Hey, we're like, hey, NSA. No.
Stop it.
You stop it. We're not doing this anymore. They're like, my God, we've had a change of heart. I mean, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Patrice O'Neill, the comedian, was like, the fact that we have like all these school shootings and we never really pass any bills to stop it or to curb gun ownership. He's like, it's a dark thing, but in a way, it kind of says to the rest of the world, like, hey, man, we won't even stop our weapon production if it kills our own kids. What do you think we're going to do to you? It is sort of a way of being like, yeah, dude, America's insane. Like, so I don't know. When you see like what we're willing to do abroad for kind of nothing, another part of me is like, why would the U.S. military machine that did Vietnam, that did Iraq, that did Afghanistan, is funding and providing weapons and intelligence to Israel? Israel's just pressing the trigger. We're giving them the weapons, and their whole thing, the AI they use to find all the Hamas members and categorize them, it's called Lavender. Lavender is a subsidiary project from Palantir, which is a U.S. defense contractor. All the weapons we gave to Ukraine, 1 million dead, we don't care. We know they're never going to win. It's like, yeah, try these weapons out. We're getting some R&D from this. When you look at what we're willing to do, why in God's name would we have any hope that death machine that has been rolling since like Kennedy, why do we think they would be nicer to us? Is it because they live here? Maybe. I don't know. I don't. The flip side would be is that this really isn't manufactured. We really are in an existential crisis, and you have to remove this. You got to remove the toe, because if you don't, you're gonna have to amputate the leg. I just don't feel comfortable with that, because historically that is always the justification for something. They're not stupid. They don't come to you and go, too many 7-Elevens have been getting robbed in Detroit. We're rolling out the Marines. You'd be like, no. Sorry, 7-Eleven, you're done. Maybe Detroit's done, but you're not doing what posse comitatus. You're not deploying the Marines on U.S. It's always for something big, right? They're not stupid. They know they got to roll something out big. So it makes sense that somebody like me or somebody like you would have to sit here and go, it does kind of seem like there's a big threat. I don't know. And my own bias. I mean, I know I'm biased. I know that I'm looking at this and going, well, this is different from COVID. This is a real threat. That's exactly what a lot of intelligent people thought 5 years ago. There's a lot of intelligent people who are like, I'm not for this, but, people are telling people to take horse medication for a virus. And they genuinely thought, some people are crazy and they just wanted to see the right get canceled. A lot of people were well-meaning, intelligent people I know, doctors, lawyers, who legitimately felt like it was an extreme circumstance and that this was warranted. I have to humble my ego and go, how is this any different? How is this any different? And is this not a lot more hardcore than censorship? We're talking about rolling out the U.S. military on our soil. Let's be self-critical for a second. That's a whole lot different than getting booted off Instagram. That's a whole lot more intense. Maybe if Trump rolled out censorship on par with what they did during COVID, I might say, hey, tit for tat, karma. I'm not even realizing it until right now. I'm saying it out loud. This is a lot different. This is special forces killers. Let's just be honest what it is. They're professional killers. These are the Super Bowl teams of guys that put bullets through faces. This is a lot different than just, we're going to limit your reach on Instagram because you say it's a bioweapon. I don't know. And then
I'm looking at actual weapons. You had mentioned, selling munitions and, military weapons to Ukraine. So I was going to see what's buzzing in the news right now. And Lockheed actually not released, but they have a manufacturing facility in Ukraine that's building the new heavy cruise missile, the Flamingo. Have you seen this thing?
Lockheed has it in Ukraine?
Yeah.
Like a production? When was it built?
Well, this article I found was 2 weeks ago. Take a look at this thing, though.
Yeah, bring it up.
This is one of their new cruise missiles. It's the FP5 Flamingo heavy cruise missile.
I was looking at one last year. It's literally called I'll find it, dude. That's a big boy. Yeah. I mean, as far as cruise missiles go, that's a cruise missile. But
look at this thing fly.
Dude, cruise missiles are insane.
It's like they just strapped a jet onto it with duct tape.
That's what a cruise missile is. It doesn't have to be ballistic. They can fly like fighter jets. They'll arc through valleys and stuff for hundreds of miles. Yeah, I mean, no, that makes sense to me that they're doing that. Of course they would in Ukraine. But it's that's when you start to see it, though. So okay, let's walk this back 3.5 years to February 2022. And you have a lot of people going, you have people in Slavic Ukraine who were doing this, that, and the other thing, and you had people who I think rightfully so said, what war, other than World War II, what war have we been in where we all didn't eventually say, "Oh, it was bullshit"? Right? Maybe Korea. That was right after World War II, and that was before. I don't think Eisenhower wasn't even president yet. But kind of Vietnam forward, it was like we always look at it in hindsight. We go, "What was that all for? Why did we lost so many U.S. men and women? We killed so many civilians. We spent so much money. What was it all for?" And in hindsight, you can only see, well, a bunch of defense contractors made trillions of dollars. And then physically on the ground, the United States, and it's never overtly, it's never the U.S. government. We're not that stupid. But a bunch of corporations get a bunch of deals to go into these war ravaged areas where there just happens to be a lot of heroin or gold or oil or rare earth minerals. And you go, oh. And when the invasion of Ukraine happened, you had all these people, Slava Ukraini, give them everything they need. Biden, give them nukes. And you had people saying they've lied about every war, and at every war we look back on and we go, it's clearly bullshit. It was clearly for horrible reasons, and millions of people died. How is this any different? And I think it was around last summer. It might have been in 2023, but we specifically saw it earlier this year with the Trump and Zelensky meeting, essentially saying like, hey, you're going to pay us back for all that. We want all those rare earth minerals you have. We want all the lithium. We want all the lanthanum. We want all this stuff. And you see it yet again. You go, you didn't even have to wait for 20 years, like, the war in Iraq, where it's after 20 years, we look back, we go, that nothing was accomplished other than making money and extracting resources. With Ukraine, it only took 3 years. I mean, hell, the thing's still going on. And they're already openly like, all right, Zelensky, you can't pay your bill. What we want is all those mines because we need those to build the batteries and what a convenience. Well, what are we trying to get? We're getting the things that are going to shape the next war. All the computer chips, everything that, that little old company called Nvidia, everything they're doing, all the open AI and Grok and all this stuff. Oh, we need the physical backbone, the substrate is all the stuff that you happen to live on. What a convenient irony that we take this little country who has no chance against Russia, give it all the weapons in the world, tell them to go for it, do a full-on domestic and international media blitz about how you got to stand with them, and then it comes out that that we made money. Well, we're always going to make money off war. That's not really a smoking gun. Private companies make weapons. It is what it is. Oh, they're on top of a bunch of rare earth minerals. Well, what kind of minerals? Oil? No, that's yesteryear. What are they on top of? Everything needed to build the computers and batteries that are going to fund the next AI dominance. Uh, well, that's pretty convenient. So you can see it right there. There's always a reason, and they wrap it up well. You gotta give them credit. They're good at what they do. Slava Ukraini, we're gonna fight the Ghost of Kiev, Snake Island, blah blah. Zelensky's on the front line. I don't need a ride. I need ammunition. It turns out none of that's true. And then the mask comes off, and you go, "Yeah, we're gonna need all those minerals." And you see it right there for what it is. You see the raw, naked face of the military-industrial complex and private corporations that are all United States or at least our allies, stripping the world of its natural resources. Every time, be it COVID censorship or the Patriot Act or Vietnam or the war on terror or Ukraine, and like, what are we doing in Israel? It's like, Israel's bad. It's like, dude, where do they getting all the weapons? Israel gets $40 billion a year in weapons aid or U.S. aid from the U.S. government. They're the only country that we give aid to that doesn't have to pay it back and they don't even have to exclusively buy U.S. weapons. When we give like weapons aid to another country, the law is that you have to buy it from us. So it's not really a loan. We're forcing you to buy from us. All this stuff is going to Israel, and then we go, oh, free Palestine. It's like, dude, we're doing that. Like, it is us. It's us. Every action we take abroad is so like unequivocally evil that how in God's name is this domestic thing gonna not turn out evil? yeah, I guess I gotta make up my mind. No, don't roll out the military domestically. It just the argument's seductive. They stole the 2020 election. No southern border. It's all the trannies dancing in front of kids. They tried to kill Trump. But every example I'm listing off right now is clearly pointing out that it's never what they say it is. And it's always the exact opposite, to where a couple of people benefit and literally millions of people die. I don't think I can be honest with myself and say this is any different. I think I'd be lying through my teeth if I said this one's different. Yeah, I think it has to be no. And again, not that my opinion matters or yours, Austin, but
I think it matters. I think you're onto something with the rare earth minerals. I mean, it's just perfect. What better way to clear a path for a commercial mining operation to come in than a war-torn nation? I mean, you bomb buildings, you clear fields.
It's like,
I mean, you got to do something with it. It's environmental cleanup at that point. It can be put under the guise of environmental cleanup.
I mean, and it's like, well, why don't we do this 20 years ago? Well, the AI wasn't really where it is. Not really. It wasn't at all. You kind of had some batteries. Isn't this convenient that, when is this happening? 2025. What are some other big things? Oh, I don't know. Grok. I don't know. ChatGPT. OpenAI. And what's like the $3 trillion? Nvidia, that one. Oh, hey, random question. Where do we find this stuff that's built on? Well, this is awkward. So it's in Ukraine. Oh,
I'm looking at it right now, actually.
Oh, not only do we get that, but by us getting it, that means that China and Russia don't get it. Oh, well, that's convenient. Sorry, what were you saying?
I'm doing a little bit of searching here on what regions these minerals are found in. Or these materials, these rare earth minerals are found in. I'm curious if there's an active war in those regions. I'm going to butcher this. Apparently in the Poltatsky and Zaporizhzhia region, it was identified during the Soviet era surveys in the 1960s, 1980s. There is no modern commercial assessment of their viability. Currently, no commercial mining operation there. But do you want to know what deposits they're finding?
Imagine what? Lithium?
Erbium.
Say it again?
Erbium and yttrium.
Yeah.
So let me see. What do you think erbium, and I might be saying that wrong, yttrium or yttrium?
No.
Do you know what those are used in manufacturing?
No, I recognize the name yttrium. Yeah, yttrium.
Let's see. I'll do a search.
I don't know if they're in the, and I'm gonna butcher my chemistry now. If they're in the, what is it, the whatever the rare earth minerals, there's columns and rows. I forget which one's which, but there's different groups, and I would imagine that those are rare earth ones used in electronics and batteries.
Applications in nuclear power and lasers.
Well, that as well. So
Ukraine possesses several rare earth minerals, including lanthanum, cerium, neodymium. I mean, that's all basic stuff.
Yeah. But so my point is, in terms of what you said, there was no commercial assessment. So there's a great book called what is it? Private Empire by Steve Call, Coll, and it's about ExxonMobil. And it's a pretty good book. It's fascinating. But there's one part of it that I thought was really interesting, and it was so these guys said whoever the top guys at Exxon were, basically their private, I don't know, mapping of like global oil, shale, natural gas, pretty like, where is this stuff? they were like, I think it was George Bush said to Putin, he was like, that stuff's more classified than our like weapon systems. that is the power to rule the world. You know where the oil. It's one thing to go get it, but to find out where it is, to where even when they would put it in like their memos for the like executives, all the countries were like switched around, and they were constantly switched. So if you ever tried to like take a picture of your notes, it wouldn't make sense. It would, they'd be talking about Iraq, but they would say it was, Louisiana, or you'd be talking about Hawaii and you'd say it's Tokyo or whatever. And it was constantly switched around, and even the deposits were switched, so no one knew like what to leak. But because it was like that is worth its weight in antimatter, like where all this stuff is. And so when you say there was no commercial assessment, yeah, there probably is. I highly, highly doubt anybody is letting that information out. I would imagine there was a commercial assessment long before this war started. If I had to really put my conspiracy cap on.
That was the Russians.
Yeah, well, I would say, yeah, those maps are probably very classified because those tell you where the next goddamn war is. There's probably a map on whatever the next element is that we need, and that's ironically where there's going to be another war. So I don't know.
So I found an article. It's actually released by the European Parliament. Interview on February 10, 2025. U.S. President Donald Trump stated that the U.S. should receive $500 billion worth of rare earths from Ukraine as compensation for continued U.S. military support to the country in resisting Russia's war of aggression. So, exactly what you had stated. Ukraine is known for possessing 25 of the 34 raw materials identified as critical by the EU. Yeah. And I even have a map. Not that it means anything, but
it does.
He doesn't give you exact locations. But
no, but it's the general idea, and I guess to play devil's advocate, you probably want to find out where these deposits are globally. So maybe it's not just Ukraine, maybe they're everywhere, because that would be a counter. I mean, I know that I believe, and I could be wrong in this. I think there's only 10% of the world's rare earth minerals are in China, in the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
But the relation to where they are, everyone else, it's miles underground. So I think only 10% of the net total is within China's borders. But in terms of like relatively easily accessible, I guess whatever that definition would be by, mining terms, what is accessible and what is not, China has 90%. So it also depends on where it is relative to the surface, or how much energy you got to put into, remove this stuff. And it might be that like, yeah, everybody's got rare earth minerals, but Ukraine's is right at the surface. I don't know. And then lastly, kind of zoom out, is at a certain point you do have to look at it. You have to be very honest and be like, okay, so this entire hour, basically we've just been painting all the bad stuff we've done, right? And I guess there is a moment of where you have to be very honest with yourself. And I don't even know if I'm capable of being that honest. Do you legitimately think if we didn't do this, that this wouldn't happen? Or do you think if we don't do it, someone else does? And that is the very cold, life in the jungle, apex predator, zero-sum Darwinian selection, where it's like, hey, if you don't do this, China would be doing this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's going to be somebody else that's going to take advantage of it, but it's going to be in a a less ethical way.
Even if they did exactly what we were doing, you can either be in the empire and talk about what you're doing is bad, or you can be the unfortunate country where the empire's activities are happening. And that is, man, that's a tough pill to swallow. Because you look at all this, and these things are objectively bad. Million men dead, Ukraine and Russia. 100,000 dead in Gaza. Was it 1.5 or 2 million dead civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan? 5 million dead in Vietnam. I think north of 5 million in Korea. Those are bad things. Those are just that is not, you can't have, that is bad. It is the jungle. I know we shave and we have glasses and, sneakers and iPhones, but we are animals.
Mm-hmm.
We are animals, and it's survival. If we don't do this, we go, okay, no more of these wars, no more of these America's resources, thank God. You know what, you were right. It probably will be less ethical. The United States, for all of its flaws, most people, when it gets bad, they're still happy for America world police. You really want China world police? You want Russia world police? And that's a hard thing, man, because so normally when it gets to this point where you pose these questions, a lot of people do what I'm doing, and they go, I don't know if I can answer that, man. And we have the convenience of you and I don't have to answer this today. We can go, yeah, we can say that was a good conversation, and maybe you'll talk about it later. You go, yeah, that really got me thinking. But ultimately, we can end this Zoom call, and we can go about our lives. And I got 5 shows next week, and I'll be meeting with you guys in the morning, and doing shows with Joe and all that good stuff. Somewhere, the question has to be answered, and it can even go higher up. A local politician could hear this and they'd be like, well, I'll vote yes on the next bill because I think America is a good force, but it's not right what we're doing abroad. Somewhere, the decision goes all the way up, and as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. Someone makes the decision. Are we doing this or are we not? Are we going to go do this thing? Are we going to go fund Ukraine? And are we going to go take these resources? Because all of our war games and Pentagon scenarios say the next 20 years is the era of AI. And if we don't take these resources and build massive, trillion-watt super clusters here, China and Russia will. And China openly has, death camps for Uyghurs. And what we're doing isn't right. But if they do it, it's going to be 10 times worse. Someone somewhere doesn't have the privilege or the luxury to go, yeah, I don't know, man, that's above my pay grade. Like, you and I can do that. We can say it's above my pay grade. Someone somewhere has to make the decision. Are we not going to do it? And are we going to get bent over by another country? Or are we going to do it? We can try to do it in whatever the most ethical way an empire can be ethical on. Or are we going to just say, no, you know what, kumbaya, let's not do this. You really think any of these other countries are going to be, and let's say that they're not worse. Let's say that Russia and China, just for the sake of the argument, let's say we've been propagandized and they're really not as bad as we think, which is horseshit, but let's just say it's true. Even if they were as ethical as the U.S. empire, I still wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it. It's that simple. So as I said earlier, there's a revolver on the table between Austin and I, and it's got one bullet in it. I would rather hold it and know that I'm not going to kill Austin, and I'm a Christian, and I believe in thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill, and I'll have it. And Austin's probably going to be scared because I'm holding a revolver, and I'm not going to use it because I know I shouldn't. But I'm glad that I have it, because by having it, by definition, Austin doesn't have it. The flip side is that Austin picks it up. And now I'm based on hope. I hope Austin's Christian. I hope he believes in a higher power. I hope he's not a psychopath. I hope he doesn't personally hate me. I don't know. Now, the happy answer would be, there is no gun, or you take it and you shoot it in the air. Okay, but let's pretend that that's just not possible. There's just a gun with a bullet. I would rather hold it and know that I won't use it against you unless it's legitimately life or death. But I'd rather have it and know that I won't use it than you have it and me be in the very low power position of hoping you don't use it. I think that's where I think you have to make that decision. And I'd rather have the U.S. hold the gun. I can hope that we do the right thing. I can hope in my own life. I can, okay, I benefit from the empire. I live in suburbia America. I can go, okay, well, I'm not going to abuse it. I'm going to make sure I, donate to the local homeless shelter and that I go volunteer at the church or something and, do something good with it. And you can, but I think you have to address that there is the gun with the bullet and someone's going to pick it up. And human history says that the guy with the gun dictates. And yes, I'm biased because I live here. And maybe I'm propagandized, but I legitimately believe that we are, if not we are one of the least evil empires in human history. And I'd rather be on top of it. I'd rather be the king of the hill with the gun and try to be a benevolent king than hope and pray on my knees that a king be benevolent to me. And it's a very difficult thing to address, and it's hard to square that away in the framework of Christianity or whatever religion, just the general idea that there's a creator watching over you. I don't know. And then you could even go further and be like, well, God, why have you put us in this situation? Why have you put us in this situation where it is zero sum? And I don't know. But an answer, you have to have an answer. You can't be wishy-washy. And so, yeah, I think I would rather have the gun. And I guess that goes back to the previous conversation and goes, yeah, I'd rather them use the military on domestic enemies. If I'm going to be consistent, I would have to say that. I don't like those answers, but I also don't like the flip side. So I don't know. I don't know. But I know that once you go down those thought spirals, even if unintentionally, it forces you to start looking at world leaders currently and throughout human history differently. And you have to assume that they've gone through those thoughts in there. Some of them probably are psychopaths. They're like, yeah, I just like killing. All right. That's not good. Some people, I think, we're trying to be the least evil empire there is. So, I don't know, man. It's a dilemma and a half. And I don't know. So that's all I got, Austin.
I agree with you. I think I'd rather the U.S. have the gun in their hand. I know there's deeply covered secrets we may never know.
Yeah.
Like a ton of immorality, but it could be worse. I'd rather the gun be in the U.S.'s hands than China's.
Yeah. Do I need to do an ad read? Do I have to?
We have to do the ad reads live.
Oh, okay.
And we are not live right now.
All right, so we wrap this up?
Yeah, so I did want to show one thing. This is our Rumble page. So we have kind of changed a few things around. Tommy, you're on here. We have Tina on here. But everything can be found on one page now. I know a lot of people are on mobile, so you may not see this. But if you go to channels, everything's divided into channels. This is kind of a housekeeping thing I wanted to show a while back.
Awesome.
I can't show my entire browser. That's fantastic. There we go. But for those of you that do like some legacy content from Conservative Daily, we now have a Conservative Daily Vault channel. Look at that. This is taking a long time to organize. Pretty proud of it.
That's awesome, man. You should be.
Then Tommy, there you are.
Thank you, sir.
So anytime one of these channels goes live, it will show up under the main Untamed channel,
That actually is a lot of work.
which is fantastic.
You should be that's actually, as an OCD person, that's actually fantastic that you put that together.
So for anybody that hasn't, make sure you follow and you hit the notification bell. Click instant, daily, whatever. Yeah, we made this change not too long ago from having a single channel to now one main user channel with all the sub channels found underneath that. So all Untamed content can be found under one roof.
Awesome.
So I did want to bring up something funny. I want to get your thoughts on.
Yeah.
So this is talking about climate change. Did you see what the Pope did?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I saw that.
And I was just digging through Twitter and I found him blessing an ice cube.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd rather we have the gun. You know?
Do you want to see the Pope blessing an ice cube?
I saw it.
Did you see this one?
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Oh man, that is the craziest thing to me.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean, though. That level of irrationality, I'd rather it be relegated to a dude with ice than a dude with 13 aircraft carriers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I know you're bringing it up because it's funny. I think that actually beautifully illustrates my opinion. I'd rather him have that and go, yeah, that's cool. You enjoy that piece of ice. You should not have nuclear submarines.
No.
Well, dude, I appreciate you sitting there and bouncing off me. It does help a lot. So I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hopefully I bounced enough.
No, you do. You do well,
Not
man.
too on top of it this morning.
No, you for somebody that doesn't do podcasts, you do extremely well. I mean that sincerely. Like some people just sit there and just choke up and it's like it's a conversation. It's a conversation.
I just push buttons, man.
Let's say that. You're more than that. You're more than a button pusher.
All right, for those who have stuck around this long, thank you guys. Yeah. I also did want to mention tomorrow at 12 o'clock Mountain, we will be airing DCF Podcast. So for those of you who have been following, we've changed it up a bit. There's going to be more changes coming along. Great things coming down the pike for this show. I mean, DCF Untamed. Make sure, you'll find it on our main user channel. Make sure to go follow, hit that notification bell. As you can see, we are posting weekly. It's being posted Saturdays at 12 o'clock Mountain. We do break these down into segments. So if you want little training segments, you want to know what's better, 5.56, 300 black. You want to know some of the science behind suppressors, correct back pressure, setting. Maybe we don't go too much detail into setting things up because certain social media platforms don't like that. But yeah, make sure to go follow. You'll see an episode this weekend. I'm trying to remember what episode we have coming out this weekend. But it is with Tanner and David. Maybe. Just make sure to follow. We got some cool things coming. Maybe some firearms manufacturers, representatives joining. We will have some of the store managers hopping on and more out in the field, out in the range content for you guys to see. So make sure to follow. We've got a pretty good following on that, actually. I mean, we're averaging 3,000 an episode. So that's
very good.
That's exciting.
I mean, it's very good. And yeah, I guess if you guys are watching, the next hour will be an interview I did this morning with Mr. Burlingame specifically. So if you didn't like the first hour of Austin and I with no experience, and the next hour is with a guy with a ton of experience in precisely this. So, you get our banter followed by the actual, you get the bro science followed by the actual doctor. So, pick whichever.
This is just WebMD.
This is you and me. Like, I heard if you eat whey protein before you shower, you'll build more muscle. Following this is the actual physiologist who's like sitting you down and talking about muscle fibers and actin and tyrosine and Austin and I are bros. If you wear a tank top, you're much more likely to increase your bench. Like, that's what this is. And though fun, it's not anchored in reality. So, but
oh man, well, thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
I appreciate hanging out
about an hour or so.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, hey, Austin, appreciate your time, man.
In typical Untamed conservative daily fashion, is someone going to pray out?
Yeah, sure. No, it's well, I told Joe what I do at the every morning when I wake up is first thing I do is if I got a full night's sleep, I always say thank you for the full night's sleep, and then I don't always get the full night's sleep. So then God doesn't get that one. If I get like 5 hours and I'm like wired, I don't give him that one. But I have a backup. I say thank you for a warm bed. I do because I think it's to be grateful for that. And then the other one is the last two are actually a derivative from. I said it last time. I didn't say where it's from. It's from my uncle, who I'm actually named after, and my godfather, who was in medical school when he got into a horrible car accident, and he's been in a wheelchair since then, almost 45 years. Had most of his skull crushed, and he's the first ever to survive a hemicraniectomy, meaning like half of his brain was removed, and he still went back and finished med school. So he's actually pretty funny. He's like, you don't even need a full brain. It's insane. No, at Duke Med School, by the way. So he went back. Impressive. Literally had to like learn to walk again, and he's the first ever to survive a hemicraniectomy, which is actually now standard operating procedure for soldiers who get blown up by an IED or something. So he actually but he made a joke. Yeah, you don't even need to be that smart because he finished with half a brain. But he would always tell me, he's like, over the years, sometimes I'd question like, why am I still alive? Like, how come God just hasn't killed me? And he always said, I have a brain that works and a heart that pumps blood, meaning that God still wants me here. He's giving me the ability to still work and to still do things, meaning that he should use that to make the world a better place. And he did a lot of work with like the Red Cross and volunteer stuff, and it's awesome. So my first is thank you, God, for a good night's sleep. If I don't get the full good night's sleep, I say thank you, God, for a warm bed. And the next two are I don't have anything else to be grateful for, even though I should. I say thank you for a brain that works and a heart that pumps blood so that I can try to make the world a better place. And I feel like that's the most honest prayer I can give. So I would say that. So
amen.
Amen, brother.
Thank you. I'm not born in communist China.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's another great one. Ice. Seriously. Up until like 100 years ago, you had to be rich as fuck to have ice. It's there. So, you can have fun with it. You can start to look around and go, it's pretty cool. Oh, glasses. That sense, the most important sense, seeing things. You know how yours doesn't work? Put on the magic glass, and now you can see. Hey, man, that's pretty awesome. So like, I would recommend that. Legitimately try to be grateful for something. You can have fun with it. You can say, thank God I'm not in communist China. You ever had a clogged toilet? It makes you really appreciate not having a clogged toilet. You go, that's not great. When that thing in my apartment that carries away fecal matter doesn't work, you go, oh, this is how most people throughout human history die from dysentery. And then when it does flush, you go, oh, that's magic. Be thankful for a toilet. So, yeah, I don't know. Be thankful for toilets. That's the summary, guys. Be thankful for a toilet. So
that's your prayer. God, thank you for the toilets.
It's not an insincere prayer. I think the biggest killer throughout human history is malaria. I think the second is dysentery. Just putting it out there. Okay, this is off the rails now. So, all right, let's wrap this up.
All right, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Take it easy, man. Guys, stay tuned. Joe will be back next week, but stay tuned for the next hour with Mr. Ian Burlingame. Thank you so much for watching, and Austin, appreciate your time, brother.
All right. Thank you very much for joining, man.
I do.
Take care, everybody.
God
See you
bless.
later.
Peace.
Hey, this is just in from Fidelity. Gold could hit $4,000 an ounce as the Federal Reserve cuts rates to cushion the U.S. economy. The dollar drops and central bank keeps adding holdings. Gold has been on a record-breaking tear over the last few years, and it doesn't look to be slowing down in the years to come. Are your savings protected with precious metals like gold and silver? Are you waiting for gold and silver to shoot even higher in price? I want you to call my gold partner, Goldco, today and learn more about what precious metals can do for you. That's 844-960-GOLD or visit untamedgold.com. You'll get a free 2025 gold and silver kit, and you'll get info on the #1 precious metal offer in the game, where you can get up to 10% back in bonus silver just for getting started. But supplies are limited, so don't put it off. Call my gold partner, Goldco, at 844-960-GOLD or visit untamedgold.com. That's 844-960-4653 or visit untamedgold.com.
My first time here shooting at the shooting range.
How's it going? It's also my first time, and I'm really excited.
It's also my first time here, first time shooting a gun.
My day off of work, and they were like, hey, you want to shoot some guns? That was awesome. The revolver is crazy. I will definitely come again.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really cool experience.
100% bringing my friends here another time.
I like to come shoot because I get to spend time with my family. Same for me. I love spending time with my family. It's something to do.
It's a lot of fun shooting.
When I first moved back into town, the first place I came was DCF Guns, and I signed up for a membership right away.
I got into shooting because of self-defense. I would encourage all women to be ready and to feel comfortable handling a handgun.
This was my first time ever shooting at DCF West. It felt amazing. I shot an AR-15 and it was amazing. It was powerful and I loved it.
I'm here today as a part of a group of women that support one another in continuing to practice and refine our knowledge.
Not only self-protection of ourselves, but protection of our loved ones as well.
I have fun and I get to meet with other ladies.
You should always be prepared to defend yourself.
And I love coming to DCF Guns West to shoot. I come with my family. It's a nice, clean, friendly range. Here I feel safe. I feel like the people to my left and my right are also really cognizant of their range etiquette. That's why I come to DCF Guns West.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. Hi everyone, Joe Oltmann here. This October 4th, join us for Freedom Fest 2025, a day dedicated to celebrating our nation's core values: faith, family, and freedom. From 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., experience a lineup of dynamic speakers, including myself, Pastor Ken Peters, and my brother and friend, Professor David Clements. We will delve into things like election integrity, legislative action, and mental health awareness. But that's not all. We want you to enjoy live performances by artists such as 5 Times August, Walker Wilson, and my friend Mark McKay. They're going to bring music that resonates with the heart of America. Whether you're passionate about preserving liberty, seeking community, or eager to be a part of meaningful change, Freedom Fest 2025 is the event you can't afford to miss. You can get tickets at tcgc1776.org. That's Tennessee Constitutional Grassroots Coalition. That's tcgc1776.org. I look forward to seeing you there.
With Mr. Ian Burlingame, you guys can go to the description. You can follow his Twitter, his YouTube, his, I believe, Substack, his and his books and all that good shit. And wanted to talk about kind of the big Pentagon meeting. But before we get on that, you're asking about YouTube, and for all future listeners, it's October 2025. I was banned in August 2021 at episode 545, and I got unbanned at episode almost exactly 1845, so almost exactly 1,300 episodes. Now, even with standard definition, it still takes, I don't know, 5 minutes to upload each one. And then there's 1,300 to do. And there's a point to what I'm saying. And the thumbnails, YouTube, I guess, have changed it to where thumbnails can be no bigger than 2 MB. All my thumbnails are like 8 because they're high res. So got to go through and resize all of them. The point is I'm doing all this, and there are people on YouTube who I get it. I get it like philosophically, where they're like, oh, I thought this was a new whatever bald one show. It's not though. Tommy, you should. I get it. Totally get it. When I go and find episodes of podcasts, sometimes I'm like, wait, when was this? That being said, there's so many episodes to do. And this is why I don't have that much, care. I open every show with a verbal reading of the year, month, day, hour, minute, time zone, and on the bottom right-hand side of the screen on Zoom is year, month, day, hour, minute, second. So, not that you asked about any of this, but just venting. People are like, "This is so." Add the date and time. I'm like, dude, just shut the up. Just shut the up. That's kind of my qualm. Is like, I'm back on YouTube. I'm psyched to upload it, and you just have people bitching about it. But I suppose that's also on me for letting it get to me. Maybe I just shouldn't look at it. So, to answer your question, how's YouTube going? It's going good.
Awesome.
The entire time I was on YouTube, I think it got 30,000 watch hours. In the last week, it's almost doubled that. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's yeah, and people are saying they're getting it and they're recommended, which never used to happen. So
awesome.
Answer your question, on the up and up. Not holding my breath though. It is YouTube. So I'm going to shut the up because that has truly nothing to do with what we're talking about. But the big meeting.
Well, it is though. Yeah. The world's changing. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
But what was the thing you actually wanted to talk about other than telling people to shut the up? Well, which I do like this early in the morning, by the way. It's the right attitude.
Sometimes, yeah. So I try not to even get, because some of them I'm just like, maybe this is a first time listener. That's not the best first impression. So I just won't reply. I can't help myself when somebody comes in and they're just dictating. They're like, this young man needs to sit up straight. He's swearing way too much. The episodes, they're not clean and cropped. And they're like, and I'm not sure I'm going to watch this. And I'm like, it's free media. You Paris. Those people gotta go. But the Pentagon meeting, all the generals and whatever go in there, and it's heck, Seth gave him I tend to think that's not what the purpose was. That it could literally be an email. But yesterday, and I sent it to you, and I sent it to a couple other. I sent it to Dale, I sent it to Clay, and I specifically sent it to Joe Tedai and Dale Comstock because they were both in Ground Branch, and about basically the use of irregular warfare or cleared for it domestically, and something about it's not international, it's against the cartels and a bunch of legal precedents I don't understand. But I thought it was interesting is, you said it was significant. Clay said kind of like 50-50. And Tedai did, and Tedai, for his sake, he said that, by the way, that's just my opinion, that's my take, not fact, obviously. But what he said is he gives the DoD a broader charter and mandate to work under Title 50. And that is important because that's what CIA Ground Branch is, and that's what Joe Tedai was in, and that's what Dale was in, and which is it's a whole different ball game than say DevGru or Delta or Tier 1, Tier 2 or whatever. Primarily about it being tertia optio. It's we're not doing this, wink. That to me is significant. But I've now ear raped you for the first 5 minutes, so I'm going to just go full. Like I ate an edible and you go nonverbal. You just stare. So I'm just going to go nonverbal now and hand it over to you.
Well, Title 10 guys, which is U.S. Army, non-National Guard. Forgive me, I still have this infection in my left cranial nerve. So half my face is slipping.
You're good.
It's good to know that it wasn't a stroke though, right? It's like, woo, it's just an infection.
I was being like an overbearing mom last week. I was like, are you awake? Are you alive? Are you? I just turned into a fat Jewish nurse. I was like, are you okay?
You're still that doctor down underneath.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So, just for quick clarification, Title 32 is National Guard. Title 10 is active military, and Title 50 is CIA, intelligence. Those all have different authorities. Some can work on U.S. ground, some can't. Posse comitatus. Anyways, I won't go into all the boring stuff. People can look it up. But given different con plans, given different authorities, they all work on U.S. soil in one form or fashion or another.
Yeah.
Right. Generally, there still has to be coordination through a task force that is ostensibly still under law enforcement, whether that's federal law enforcement or state or municipal, but usually it's a state and federal level task force to which U.S. military, special operations or intelligence assets are assigned. For the most part, this has been around the cartels because of the the transnational nature of the cartels. But, I've been calling this out for as long as you and I have known each other, right? The Praetorian problems. Who are the Praetorians? The Praetorians are the bankers and the people behind the cartels. The cartels are just the cartels are the off the books CIA.
Yeah.
It's just literally what they are. I mean, look at Oliver North in the 80s when I was in high school. I remember him, I had to do a paper on him on the Iran-Contra thing where they were moving cocaine out of Colombia and buying guns and for Iran or whatever, somewhere, the Contras and, yada, yada. And Ollie North got up and said, "Senator, I do not recall, I think 100 times." And Reagan tried to put a stop to all that and they shot him. Right, in broad daylight. So, I think you and I have talked this before, but I suspect that the Kennedy assassination set something in motion and we're now getting to it. And what is that? That's the undoing of the CIA. It's the undoing of the intelligence, this Praetorian regime, this mob state government.
To interrupt, it's I think we all tend to accept, we go, yeah, something was set in motion. It was the takeover of the Republic. We're not saying just that, although that is one thing that was set in motion or was in motion, and that was just momentum. But the idea of a sort of a counter to it, a resistance to it, that has just kept their head down for 60 years because they had to.
Well, I think part of it is keeping the head down, but the other part of it is it's taken 60 years to get into a position in a place where you can remove this Praetorian system.
I kind of mean the same when I say that. I mean, your
you.
Sources are low. Don't ask the way to the king's cauldrons. Just
yeah. I mean, you have to get prepared for the fight you're going to fight. And then you have to draw out this clever, hidden, behind the scenes enemy to where everybody can see them. And you have to, at least, since they're not, but you have to at least do everything within the confines of the Constitution and the law, the actual law, not bullshit, and one of the things that's had to happen is this restoration of constitutionality in the federal courts, which has been happening under this current administration at extraordinary pace. And then you have to be able to fire a bunch of people because this mob state is embedded in everything, right? It's a parasite, kind of like this son of a bitch in my cheek right now.
All good.
Right? Who knew horse medicines were so awesome? They've helped a lot. Ivermectin has helped immensely. Yeah, this could have gone on months, and it's in about a week or so. It's mostly gotten rid of it. It's mostly just localized down here now, a little bit. But, point being is that, people look at and keep hearing, most of the people who are running their mouth talking about things, some of them fairly knowledgeable, so I don't mean to, belittle them, but most people are talking about the great game, right? It's the managerial classes, and it's immense, and it's vast, and it's all these different layers. But above that is the sport of kings. It's like the eternal war that I wrote about versus the infinite game. The infinite game is a sport of kings. It's how do we keep this all going? How do we keep it from crashing? How do we keep them from crashing it? But how do we play this in such a way that we keep the parasitism to a level that's at least survivable, if not, hey, we can actually thrive for a little while, right? All of it, the Praetorian problem is a very real problem. It goes back to Rome. That's why I labeled the Praetorian problem. It's very well known. It's happened in other courts. It's happened in other states. It's just, it's what happens over time. The resentfuls rise to the top, all these systems, and they corrupt everything, and removing them nearly kills you. And in many cases, the attempt to remove them ends the kingdom, principality, or state. And our princes, our oligarchs, and some of the managerial class are doing absolutely everything they can now. They are moving. They have the wealth. They have the technologies now. They have enough awareness amongst the people for the people to at least recognize that something positive is happening and that some people need to be taken down. And there's a cry for it, right? We're half a step from pitchforks and torches in the night, right? Like people right now, some of these horrendous rapes of children and other things, people are actually going to the jails and demanding the person be released to be, hung, drawn, and quartered. We're getting to that place, right? We're right there. So, they tried to kill Trump. They killed Charlie Kirk as a way to let, that was a willingness to demonstrate how far they'll go.
That's what you texted me, and which I thought was significant. That was a demonstration of how far.
It was a demonstration
how far we will go.
Yeah, that's the Praetorians saying we will kill yours, and there's very little you can do about it. And we'll do it publicly, and we'll burn some of our low level, Marxist throwaways. Where we're really getting to at some point here, and somebody posted something yesterday about here's your enemy, and I was like, if you think the Antifas are the actual enemy, you are an idiot. Those are the throwaways. That's the disposables. Who's really behind this, and I'll just say it straight up, is the Azovs, who now have 3 years of modern combat experience and who have been working with leading jihadis and cartel members, which has been in the press and been out in the public. They've been leading them in combat for 3 years. They're extraordinarily well funded.
That's one thing. Sorry to interrupt. That's one thing I said in 2022. I was like, it just kind of feels like we're funding the Mujahideen, and then it becomes Al Qaeda, and we don't know how it happens. And so far as to say, we might even champion the Mujahideen, freedom fighters, on the front page of the New York Times. What's the modern thing today? It's Slava Ukraini, and all of a sudden, $1 trillion of weapons, and a couple years or maybe decades. It seems now like it's a couple years. They're gonna arise. There will probably be a name change in the public atmosphere by our government to make it look like something different, or they'll just call it the Azovs, and we're all gonna go, well, how did they get all those weapons? And it's
Well, didn't Zelensky himself several times say that only about 10% of the money and stuff's getting to the Ukraine?
Yeah.
And we're all like, well, they're stealing the weapons. No, that's not what's showing up in the weapons markets, by the way. So where's all that going? Right? So if I was going to mount if I knew civil war was coming and I knew some very capable people were going to finally remove me, do you think there isn't shit like that we wouldn't be done? And oh, by the way, look at the history of the Azovs. These are Banderites. They've worked directly with the CIA as the wet works, as this very role for the CIA since the 1940s. Unbroken, right? Direct continuity. And with all the Ukrainian
direct continuity
diaspora.
From what, OSS or Azovs?
The Azovs were the Banderites. After World War II, the Banderites worked directly with the CIA, stay behind in Eastern Europe to fight against the Soviets.
Got it.
Right? the, an Operation Gladio and all that other stuff. That was the Banderites. That was the Ukrainians. And people are like, well, they're Ukrainian. Why would they do? Well, these are the Western Ukrainians. They don't consider themselves Slavs. And all the Slavs to them are Russians. So they don't mind killing 2 million of their, Ukrainian people, because to them, that's not their own people. Right? But now with the tens of millions, 25 million or so Ukrainians, that diaspora around the world, Azovs are embedded everywhere. Right? So, yeah, the Antifas and the soys and all of this, and don't underestimate them either, because crazies can do some crazy they can, out of 30 crazies, one can get a lucky shot off. Right?
Yeah.
Especially if they're further enhanced and supported and, given intel and weapons and other things from behind the scenes, because that's what you do first, right? And these fascists pushed, you burn the communists and Marxists first. So we need to be very, back to the point, and then I'll let you guide the conversation where you want it to go next. But the articulation of the authorities, the reissuing of 3000.2, et cetera. I didn't see, and I didn't, dig too deep, of course, but I've seen these authorities and other things before because of the work I did. What I am seeing in concert with the officers and senior enlisted all being brought back, one, what does that demonstrate? Our military command is way over bloated. We had 12 million people under arms in World War II, and we only had 7 4-star or 5-star generals ran it all, right? We have something like 100 plus 4 stars right now. Give me a second. But
you're good.
What it looked like to me is just so the reissuance of the documents is just reminding everybody of the legality of the domestic actions that they're doing. And then and primarily that's a reminder to, attorney generals in states that are fighting, like Oregonians and really California, because once we get there, it's going to be, I don't know, that one might start the hot shooting. And then timing that with the military officers, probably they got another brief as well, which was all of that stuff too, and an articulation that if any of them continue with treasonous activities, which some of them have been engaged in, wittingly or unwittingly, or if any of them act to participate with the Europeans or the British to launch World War III and draw the United States into World War III, that they would be removed immediately, a la MacArthur, right? And that the fight is here, it's in the Western Hemisphere, and we all need to orient to it. And I almost guarantee you they got all those authorities and all that legal language. That's probably who that was prepared for, was senior leadership. So that anybody say, well, we can't act on U.S. soil, or we can't this, or we can't that. It's like, yeah, sorry, here's all the legalities of how and why. And so when we give you an order, you're going to execute that order. It is a lawful order.
It was kind of like a digital nationwide version of the military installation deadly force authorized sign. That's kind of, it's not that it was new. It's just that as you're walking up to, I don't know, Groom Lake, you see it and you're like, up in like New England where, all my extended family is, you'll be in the woods and you'll see like, posted the sign. You go, okay, that's different. And hopefully they're probably not going to kill you. They probably know my dad. Like they won't. This is, I would imagine you're walking up to Groom Lake and you go, that says deadly force authorized. It's just out there. And you go, it makes you think twice. This seems less of a make you think twice and more of like a reminder. That's what I feel like it is. And
it's also a notice to all of, again, city, county, state bad actors who would try and throw lawsuits, and courts and judges that would try and throw lawsuits out there, and attorneys like the ACLU and others that would try and throw all these frivolous cases. It's like, okay, we're going to tell you right up front what all the legal authorities are. what the law is, what the codes are, what we're going to be operating under, so we can just cut through all this crap.
And that's not to play on our text, but that's not insignificant.
No.
That is not it, right? It's just back to Trump's first turn, it'd be like, oh, the leftist mayor, and they're like, yeah, and we're gonna resist Trump, and it just kind of seemed a bunch of like bickering and shit. This does not seem like that. And I mean, for all Trump's flaws, he has many, and I wish he would do more, and blah blah blah, the human condition. I like what he's doing with ICE this administration, just as like an example, versus the first administration. It seems like he doesn't give a about like, oh, they're gonna scream Nazi fascist. The first time it was like, oh, well, I don't want to be called that. Versus now, we've gone so far that it's like, I just don't care. Yeah, I don't care. Roll it out.
I
It's
don't
the
know.
law.
I don't know that that's the case. I think the case is, so here's what I suspect, and it's only a suspicion, okay? I suspect they were ready, almost ready in 2020. So
To do what they're doing now.
Sicario 2 was a warning. And what's happening now, what's about to happen now, might or might not have been planned for February 2020. And might or might not be the real reason COVID was launched and the election was stolen, to prevent what's coming, this hard removal. And the responsibles on their side, unfortunately or fortunately, weren't as prepared as they thought they were. One, they didn't foresee that they had this COVID thing sitting on the shelf there that they were ready to launch. And they didn't see how extensive they were going to go, right, on stealing the election at every level. And they didn't at the time have the full faith and support of enough of the the high level managerial class to participate. Now they do, because they've seen everything that's happened under Biden, not under Biden, with, Presidency at Bernie's. You familiar with that movie, Weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah.
I call that the presidency at Bernie's, right?
So much so that and I always hate 5D chess. So much so you almost wonder if it was a mixture of the two. They were surprised about COVID and the theft of the election. I firmly believe a bunch of generals went to Trump because Trump was giving like press conferences around Christmas 2020. Remember, where he wasn't just saying it was stolen. He would be like, at 3:13 a.m., 115,214 votes. So I looked at that and I was like, they have it. I think probably somewhere there's a bunch of generals that are like, we're pivoting, but if you do this right now, the entire thing's gonna explode.
It's not even them. It's not the generals. What it was, the courts. What it was is the courts, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the vice president, a whole bunch of high level managerial class said, yeah, we won't back you in this. Why? Because they didn't want to be the ones whose name was on civil war. Yeah. So they didn't care if the country got destroyed, or they didn't care what came next. They're just cowards.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot of people. It's not just the names that we think, but a vast number of cowards. And so, okay, at a certain point, you realized in January that there wasn't going to be the managerial class supports necessary to make the movement that had to be made. Okay, we're going to step aside, but we're going to draw all this out into the open, and we're going to collect intelligence, and we're going to have conversations with people, high-level managerial class people, and say, we know what you did, like that, right? Right down to the very number and the minute, right? We know what you did. You're out of the game, right? Or we're coming after you, or we're going to legally exercise, what we need to do in the courts. And on the other side, you get enough destruction in 4 years to where higher level managerial, the higher level managerial class guys, mostly guys who were sitting on the fence because they just didn't want to be in a civil war because they're close to retirement. Worst in the history of the world are the ones close to retirement, right? But you get enough for them to see as much destruction in 4 years and can see the progress of that, and they're like, okay. And they're either going to commit or they're going to retire, right? They'll just get out and retire. What I do expect to see here soon over the next year or so is a whole bunch of retirements. It'll be quiet. It'll be kept quiet. It'll just be done. And, that was really, Trump rambled that whole conversation in front of all the senior staff. And I was wondering about that, right? I was wondering about it because Hegseth's right on. And then Trump comes out and he rambles around. I realize it's because Trump came out to say one thing. He came out to say one thing and he said it early on. And you know what it was? He said, everybody's free to do what they want. Everybody here is free to do what they want. You can get up and walk out. It'll cost you your rank and your career and your future. That's what he came out to say. Everybody's free in America. You're free to do what you want to do. You're free to support the other side, but it's going to cost you. No more of this sliding through. No more of getting a wink wink. No more looking the other way. Everything else was just, okay, I got some time to fill.
And also back to 2020, 2021. I don't think it was part of, I don't think it was drawn up to be like, and then we'll let them steal the election. I don't go that far. That's way too many movies.
No. Yeah, no.
What I think it was is it's probably, I mean, let's postulate this and say this, whatever this group is, started in 1963. Well, 2020 is
60
what,
years
50,
almost.
57,
Almost 60 years.
57 years. They might be going, they're looking at it, they're going, it's growing it's like I look at the podcast, I'm like, it's growing every month. This is a hiccup. They might look at that and be like, yeah, let's not 57 years. Let's
a preparation.
We didn't expect this.
Yes.
How do we pivot? How do we capitalize on it? Honestly, it was its own psyop. You just saw how crazy they were. You saw what they were willing to censor. You saw what they were willing to do, to the point where all of a sudden it's like, now you got a lot of people that are like openly asking. They're like, I hope Trump and them just do this shit. And it's like, wow, that's a lot less convincing and a lot more asking.
If the enemy hadn't launched COVID, we wouldn't have half the people calling for this today.
Oh,
maybe not even half. Quarter. Right? So you're spot on. You said something about a game you used to play where you just launch an aircraft over enemy territory.
I was gonna say it earlier, and I wasn't sure if I had said that to you before. Nuclear option, and it's a long 3-hour game, and you escalate. You get cruise missiles to tacticals to strategic to big. You start unlocking this stuff, and the war gets crazier and crazier. You got to take out each other's factories. But sometimes what you do is very early, instead of expending one of your B-2 bombers, you'd get in a fighter jet, no weaponry, quarter tank of fuel, nothing, lightweight, thrust to weight ratio max, full throttle, sonic boom. You're not trying to hide shit. You're just carving through the valley at like an altitude of 100 feet. And then as you get close to their main base, you've already been pinging things the entire way. Then you bank straight up to where all of their enemies can see you. And the idea is like, you're not going to survive. So early on, you start tracking the 40 mil AA guns shit. And then once you get to like their kind of main base, you just go straight up and you literally just, the pings on the map go, and you see, medium range SAM sites, long range SAM sites, the hyper long range, the beyond the horizon ones. And if there are any aircraft in the area, even on the runway, they'll start pinging you, which lights up the runways. That guy's, there's no getting out of it. You have now drawn out their entire map, and you can now piecemeal. And it takes hours. And if you don't know the game, you'd be like, what was the point of that? Anyone that's played the game and knows it can go 12 hours, they'll go, this one sacrifice is going to make the match only last 90 minutes.
So that's what the whole president at Biden's was. Presidency at Bernie's was doing that on the political and legal scene, and then the oligarch, high net worth managerial scene. Since getting into office, they've been doing the same thing with the World War III infrastructure, the British World War III, European World War III infrastructure, which is, again, the Azovs and the CIA and the cartels and everybody else. And again, not all of them. There's some good guys and there's factions, et cetera. But for the most part, all the operational guys and all the guys that have basically been off the books for decades or, a couple of generations now. The Devil's Legions, as I call them. But that's what's been happening. He'd been poking, right, to see where's this World War III assets at in Europe, Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, Southeast Asia. Why? Same thing. Draw them out in the open, right? Israel would take another 40 years to be able to do another strike like they did on Iran.
Natanz. Was it Natanz? No, that was Stuxnet.
Yeah, Stuxnet. No, this was, with targeted strikes on, IRGC, et cetera. Because it took them at least 20 years to put all that human infrastructure in place, et cetera. So that's exactly what's happening. Okay, well, same things have been happening with the cartels using ICE. Cartels here in the U.S., right? And it started with that one in L.A., which was what? Well, that was actually a money laundering operation, the one that started the riots. And then what do? Well, you draw out government and oh, okay. So that person does work for the cartels, mayor of, for the CIA, actually. Look at her background, right? USAID background, right? But how many governors, how many mayors, how many sheriffs in the United States are owned and paid for by the cartels? It's a lot more than people think of. What about politicians? What about city council members? What about small and regional bankers? Right? This goes back over a century. What we have to look at in the United States, like not right now, is like New York City and Chicago during Prohibition, because that's what we have. That's the extent of what we have, just times 10, because we're vastly bigger population now and vastly more dangerous. Right? So you got to probe them. You got to draw them out. That's what they're doing with ICE right now. Right? World War III stuff's been highlighted and is being taken off the table by us and other people, primarily by Russia and China and Iran. And now, the thing that you sent me yesterday morning, we're telling all of these owned assets, all of these government legal, and because there's law firms and everything else involved, here's all the legal structure and language. We have all the authorities necessary. And yes, if it's necessary, we can use the U.S. military in full force here in the United States. And actually, by the way, I looked it up a few weeks ago, actually, and there are means and methods by which the posse comitatus, which is non-use of Title 10 forces on U.S. soil, can be set aside.
Well, foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic. I swore an oath.
Yeah.
To all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that's regardless of laws and precedents and whether it's right or wrong or whatever, just abstractly, I've always assumed like they would deploy the military domestically if shit ever got bad. Like I just always assumed at some point they'd be like, yeah, fuck it.
But you have to have the military loyal, and that's what they've been working on since, actually since the Bushes, by the way. This goes back before Obama. I know everything's getting tried. I mean this somewhat snide, as a snide statement, but not. It's interesting how all this is being dumped on the one black president.
It's not fun.
It's as if he was the only bad guy.
He wasn't great, but yeah, I'll throw him a bone. Yeah, he's not the soul. Somebody said Donald Trump is the character at the end of a horror movie. Okay, But you have to understand that a lot of other guys got you in a horror movie. Like,
yes,
so
yeah. So
it's
like it's just
it's not all Obama, and that's where you do kind of have to call
it's like
some conservatives. You're like, hey man, like I hate this. I hate the racist dog whistle. Hey, dude, you're kind of being a racist, right? Like,
right?
He's not great either, but Bush is a war criminal. You know, it's like I'm not
Both
saying you
of
have
them.
to exactly, and Cheney, and like it's like I don't like them either. But I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's like but you know what I think? Quite honestly, I think part of the reason they're doing that is just to try and prove that racism is real and that everybody's racist, and it's like so. Yeah, so I suspect more and more I'm seeing that we're getting to a very real fight, and all the groundwork's being laid. I still hear all these talking heads talking stuff, and it's like people managerial, they're still talking managerial class stuff. It's like, bro, Sport of Kings up here has changed fundamentally. I mean, we're in a whole different world now, and you're still talking shit from 2 years ago. You can't even talk shit from 6 months ago. In fact, you can't even talk 3 months ago because shit's changed that much right now. That's the thing that concerns me. The other thing that concerns me a lot is a whole lot of people running their mouth. They ain't never done nothing but read a book or talk. And they're running their mouth against guys that are in the game, guys that are, known and putting targets on people's backs, wittingly or unwittingly. And that's the other thing in these kinds of transition times. I was starting to write a piece this morning before I got your message. But we're going to see the amplification of a whole lot of voices, some of which we already know, right? And we're going to see the tuning out of moderate voices, experienced voices that are saying, no, that's not actually what's going on. Or you're going to see it. This is what happens right before shit goes hot. And you're going to see a whole number of little shitbags shouldn't be running their mouth about people, particularly in these kinds of times, because they're painting a target on them. And these ain't normal times. You're going to see a whole bunch of nonsense talkers talk well read. They got a good memory, and they're going to be voices that get promoted. Why? Because it doesn't matter if anybody listens to them. They're just spouting nonsense they don't understand. Problem is they're going to be they're painting targets. It's already happening. It's not like I haven't gotten death threats, and then some idiot last week, and then when he gets a chance to take a deeper look, because I didn't attack him. I just said, hey, you might want to take a broader look, cherry pick some quotes from some things I've done over 25 years, and then locks down comments. Like, okay, this ain't normal times. You paint a target on somebody's back who's in the game, and shit goes bad, and it's connected to you in any way. Don't think there isn't going to be ramifications, right? That's the other thing in these kinds of times. Talkers need to be careful. When we're in normal-ish kinds of times, talking can say shit, and it's not really a threat, and okay. But in times when people are getting killed on live TV, you might want to watch what the you run your mouth about. Right? I know people in the game. I know guys I know personally, or maybe saying shit they shouldn't say because of a paycheck. I'm never going to call them out. You'll never get their name from me. You torture the living out of me, you'll never get the name. Well, torture does work. Just hate to say that, but you delay long enough, right? But the point being is you'll almost never, unless it's really imminent threat or somebody's really put themselves out there, you're never going to hear me using somebody's name. It's not how you do. In times when shit's really dangerous, you don't talk that way. Especially if you don't really know the person you're talking about.
I mean, right? That's my modus operandi with the podcast and not in the military. That's why I always tell everyone, like, if because I have so many guests on, a lot of guests don't like other guests. And I always tell them, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can't say it on the show because they're not
Yeah.
present. In the same way, I will tell them you can't talk about Bob if they're not present.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just like not based on threats or whatnot. That's just me going, it kind of seems like a bitch move to do that, so I don't do it.
Well, that's the
I just
thing,
look, I
right?
just look at it just that. I'm like, yeah, don't be a pussy. What are you fucking
We've
talking
been
about?
in this effeminate world for too long. People
Yeah.
don't remember what it means to be a man. Man doesn't run his mouth about another man. It's like Clay said in that video here recently. It's like if McPhee wanted to show up, kick his ass for calling him out about Tim Kennedy. Well, okay. Man's got to do it. Man's got to take his beating when he takes it. But that's two men, right? That's two public facing men having a conversation between each other. Just so happens to be public because the other guy's also one of our community and he's also public.
Sure.
Right? But it's like I wrote about yesterday, right? It's not going to come at you unless you really are a danger, right? Unless you're intentionally painting a target. But what's happening these times right now, there's another selection going on behind the scenes. It's mostly unspoken, but it's the community of people who can secure in almost any kind of situation, making determinations about who and what gets secured. Should it go to, primary, alternate, contingency, or emergency?
What say that again? I'm not following. Secure what?
So there's another selection going on, right? There's another dialogue going on behind the scenes in these times. It always happens this way. And it's a conversation, mostly sotto voce, subtle, but it's, hey, in primary, alternate, contingency, emergency planning, right? When you're doing your PACE plan, it would stay within primary, most dangerous, most probable courses of action. Here's who and what we can secure. In the alternate, most probable, most dangerous courses of action. Here's what we can, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole lot of people right now running their mouths about things that don't realize that by doing that, they're getting outside that security bubble. They're getting identified as somebody who's a threat because they run their mouth and they don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they're painting targets on people's backs. And so it's not like, okay, we're going to come after you. It's like, no, it's just if somebody is coming after you, nobody's going to come for you.
To loosely pull it back to, I guess, the Pentagon meeting and whatever. Yeah. Cause I don't even know what it was called. I don't know, the irregular, that whole just thing, the Pentagon and then that irregular warfare tweet or whatever. It also comes down to, does Trump have the balls to use it? And I go back and forth that, sometimes I think he does. Sometimes I think he doesn't. Sometimes I think that maybe it's just his ego where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to go down as the president that all these guys. I don't know, dude. I think I guess by the fact that it's happening is the proof in the pudding. Now, granted, he still has to do it, but I guess the fact that it's happening at all is kind of proof that like he kind of has the balls to do it. Not that you have Trump, but
so I had this conversation with somebody the other day. Each generation has to close out the fight of their time and set up the next fight for the next generations. And it isn't about Trump having the balls to do this. Is he putting the infrastructure in place so that J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, et cetera, have the tools necessary to fight the fight? And all of that's happening. Right? All the court stuff's being reset to actual constitutionality so that if they use these authorities and titles and they go to court, because that's what some little piece of shit's going to do, it gets smacked down. And it gets smacked down fairly quickly. And more than likely, a lot of these cases won't even be heard because the courts have to adhere to constitutionality. So, they're not going to be able to do some fatwa from the bench. So it's not so much about, Trump's generation and the older Xers generation's wars taking requirement is to take World War III off the table and then set up and put in place and back and support the Gen Xers and millennials who are going to have to fight the domestic fight to get rid of, the devil's legions here in the US. We also have to do it in the UK. We might have to go to Europe and do it in Europe, but we really want Europe to handle itself. And Europe has Eastern Europe that went through all this, in its own way, went through all of this. They're struggling it out. Romania just had election overthrown, just somebody in place, Moldova, et cetera. So let's see how Eastern Europe deals with it. But Eastern Europe could quite possibly take care of Europe, just by breaking the European Union up and starving Western Europe of the resources and manpower, et cetera, of Eastern Europe, et cetera, right? And so to your, this isn't a matter, does Trump have the balls to do it? It's does he and his generation have the intelligence wherewithal to take their generation's fight off the table and set the next generations up to fight theirs? And if we look, we are seeing that. Because then it's a question, the real question is, and if you look at this administration across the board, it's a transfer of power from the last silent and the boomers to Xers and millennials. You can just look across the board. Now, there's still some boomers in key places like Dissent and others, because they're really capable subject matter experts, and you really need them there to, do the transition stuff. But if you look at who's going to actually be fighting this fight, which has already started and probably going to go into the mid to the latter part of the next decade, it's all Xers and millennials, and they are being empowered. When they're coming under attack, throw them out for this or that, they're getting backed and saying, no, we're keeping them there. Like Kash Patel. I'm not a fan of his, but I don't know him. I think the Valhalla statement was dumb as so that's just me.
Gay, yeah.
Right.
I think he meant well, but it's just gay.
Yeah, well, I think he did too. It's just he's got more crazy. His eyes are more crazy than Sarah Adams, which is saying a lot. So, but also, that's another thing. People who play those cat and mouse games across the period, I've seen it in SF guys that have played other, done other skills work. I've seen it in Intel guys that have done other skills work. At a certain point, they get that crazy look because they've got like 6 different personalities running based off of what Intel operation they're running here and what over there and all this compartmentalization and stuff. I could never do it. I just don't have that wherewithal. I've been looked at for that kind of work. I couldn't do it. I can't compartmentalize like that. And you asked me a direct question in some cases. I'm probably going to answer you, right? In some cases. So point being is that to your actual question, all the infrastructure, World War III has been steadily taken off the table. There's a little bit of kerfuffle here and there, but I think it's mostly been taken off the table. Constitutionality in the courts is being restored, and the U.S. military is being told, you swore an oath, you're going to adhere to it or you're gone. And here's all the titles and authorities and con plans and all this other stuff that you're going to adhere to, and it's all legal, so no bullshit or you will be gone. We got to look at how many officers and senior enlisted guys were fired in the Civil War and World War II, and there's a lot, right? Even Patton got fired for a while, sidelined, right? But, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, J.D. Vance, Hegseth, even Pam Bondi. People give Pam Bondi a lot of shit, but if you look at what her DOJ is doing in this all-out war to restore constitutionality in the courts, she's kicking ass. The DOJ is kicking ass. And I know everybody wants to get to the Epsteins and all this other kind of bullshit. And, at some point that's important, but you don't take that on until you've got pretty high confidence you're going to win that fight. Because those people will burn the world to the ground. Mm-hmm. They will unleash hell in your streets to protect themselves. So anyways, I think the balls are not necessarily in Trump for the fight ahead. It's in the Xers and the millennials, and they certainly got it, and they're already in the fight.
I have my windows open, and it's getting cold, and there's nonstop sirens. Tell everybody where to find you. I'll be back in after shut all this shit.
So emburlingame.substack.com, emburlingame on Twitter, a LinkedIn account I rarely use. And then the books are under my name on Amazon. And I have a website, actually, emburlingame.com, where you can get signed copies of books. And then we're going to put out some training materials around a Modern Knights Guidebook and some other things here soon.
Yeah, I guess it's more of just kind of like it's kind of wild to actually see it start to play out. Now, I'm very hesitant to be like, it's happening because, I mean, everything's always been happening since forever. But it is interesting to like put that out there, to call in all the generals. It is fascinating. It's so, and this is pure speculation. How does it start? If it starts, how does it start? Is it very quiet and behind the scenes, or is it just straight up like bold-faced names just start getting like zip tied by SWAT teams? Not that you have the answer.
Yeah, so as I said previous, generally, given the kind of steps that we've just seen, you get a whole number of retirements. People are given an option, right? They're given information on their actual malfeasance and maybe even treason, and they're given a choice. And you see a bunch of retirements. You see the attempts by the other side to discredit a whole lot of people, using made up lies, using falsehoods, using accusations, using, disinformation, actual, like General Pachepa's book, Disinformation, Real Disinformation, and stirring up the mob, stirring up the crazies to go and kill somebody, etc. That's usually what you see next. Right now it's the whole next level of loyalty test, right? Who's loyal on one side? Who's loyal to the mob state? Who's loyal to the revolution? Because those are two different but related entities, right? The real power is the mob state. The revolutionaries are just useful idiots, but they're in everything. And so, and then on the other side, the loyalty, so they're loyalty testing themselves to see who's really in this, who's going to go the distance, and then sidelining those that aren't, or burning some of them. On the responsible side, it's who's loyal to the Constitution, who's loyal to this country, who's loyal to this Constitution. And it really comes down to that, right? Constitutionality. And are we going to, people need to remember that there was 20 some odd years of all this kind of effort that happened before the founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence, which was a declaration of war in the form of a firm commitment. It even says it, right? That they are committing life and fortune, right? The potential of the loss of life and fortune to bring about this thing, right? To stand and fight for this thing, this what would become the constitutional form of government. I don't think we've quite gotten to that declaration signing yet, but we're getting close. So now there's a whole lot of loyalty testing by the responsibles, the constitutionalists, to, of all those and all these managerial and leadership, et cetera, positions. But there's also loyalty testing within the mob state and the revolutionaries to see who's willing to go into this next level of blood, And these things can take about a year or so. Now there you can get some extraneous action or some Leroy Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
It does something stupid and throws off the balance and accelerates everything. But normally this next level now of loyalty tests of who's really in, signing, right? Loss of life and fortune, that usually takes about a year.